Hello everyone. So this video is going to be about the Werewolf Trials. Some 200 years before the witch trials in Salem, Massachusetts, courts in Europe were convicting men and some women of transforming into werewolves and mutilating and eating children. The punishments were sometimes as gruesome as the alleged crimes. In Germany, in 1589, executioners strapped accused werewolf Peter Stump to a cartwheel, removed his skin with hot pincers, and chopped off his head before burning his body at the stake. Stump's head, attached to a wooden pole carved into the likeness of a wolf, was later displayed as a warning to others tempted to consort with the devil. Werewolf trials took place in parts of Europe throughout the 15th, 16th, and 17th centuries, driven by superstition, religious and political clashes, and the desire to find scapegoats for harsh conditions. Many of the accused were beggars, hermits, or recent immigrants to the area. Many confessed to being werewolves and committing heinous crimes, but only after being tortured. Historians suspect some suffered from delusions or weren't intelligent enough to know that they were admitting to. A few may have been actual pedophiles or serial killers, but the historical records are fragmented and exaggerated. Centuries later, it's difficult to untangle folklore from real evidence or what people believed to be real at the time. The idea of being consumed by animals in this world or the next remained a popular anxiety throughout the Middle Ages. The concept of human transforming into wolves goes back millennia. In the Epic of Gilgamesh from Mesopotamia in 2100 BC, the hero abandons a love interest when he learns that she turned an ex-lover into a werewolf. In Greek mythology, King Lycon of Arcadia tests Zeus's omnipotence by feeding him disguised human remains and is turned into a werewolf as punishment. His name is the root of the term lycanthropy, used for both changing into a werewolf and the delusion of being one, and it is a recognized psychiatric condition for several centuries. Werewolves are also figured into the folklore of the Middle Ages, but they were usually benign characters who shape-shifted into beasts against their will and were desperate to return to human form. Charges that real people could be menacing werewolves surfaced as part of the witch trials that swept through parts of Europe in the 1400s. Officials in the Valais region of Switzerland conducted large-scale prosecutions blaming witches for crop failures, lameness, blindness, infertility, and impotence, as well as adopting wolf forms and mutilating cattle. According to some accounts, several hundred men and women were convicted and burned at the stake in Valais starting in 1428, often with a sack of gunpowder around their neck. Any land they owned automatically transferred to the local vassal of the king, which may have spurred the accusations. From the Alps, werewolf prosecution spread to Franche-Comté. Don't get me to lying on that word. In Burgundy, a densely forested area where villagers and livestock were easy prey for actual wolves. There, as elsewhere in Europe, political and religious upheavals heightened tensions, and Christianity was struggling to overcome regional pagan traditions, making fertile ground for fanciful accusations, according to Rolf Schultz, a German expert on witch and werewolf hunts, in his 2009 book, Man as Witch. Also a very good book to read. In 1521, inquisitors appointed by the Pope presided over several trials of alleged werewolfery. Two shepherds, Pierre Burgot and Michael Verdun, confessed to making a pact with the devil in exchange for food, meeting with a man in black who gave them an ointment that turned them into werewolves, then attending midnight witch gatherings and hunting and eating children. Both were convicted and burned at the stake, along with a third who refused to confess. Subsequent werewolf trials often featured similar details: men in black, a magic salve, belts or skins that turned the accused into wolves, attending witch ceremonies late at night, and going on bloodthirsty rampages. Supposed eyewitnesses testified to seeing huge glowing eyes and long pointed teeth and beasts running with superhuman speed. Contesting the church's authority, the secular parliament in Dole soon took charge of werewolf prosecutions, at one point encouraging citizens to assemble armed with clubs, halberds, pikes, and other cudgels to hunt down the named werewolves where they might find, catch, shoot, or kill them, according to the Edict of Parliament cited in Schultz's book. The doctors credited Satan with altering body humors. A patrol in the eastern French town of St. Claude tracked down Giles Garnier, an immigrant living in poverty in the forest, and accused him of mutilating children near Dole in 1573. After torture, Garnier confessed to killing 4 children and feeding their bodies to his family on a Friday, a double sacrilege given by the church's edict against eating meats on Friday. Garnier was burned at the stake, despite some doubt that he could have physically traveled 60 kilometers away where some of the missing children lived. St. Claude's Grand Judge, Henry Bouquet, became convinced that a large group of witches and werewolves were terrorizing the community and ordered multiple arrests and prosecutions, with the charges often used interchangeably. He also authored treatises on various forms of demons, including werewolves, and in 1598 alone pronounced 17 death sentences. He had to reconcile his legal views with the church's official position that God alone could transform humans and the devil could only create illusions. Nothing that he had seen confessed werewolves snarling and prancing around the courtroom on all fours. Bouquet concluded that they are clearly under the devil's spell and thus equally deserving of execution, according to Schultz. Courts sometimes called in physicians to testify. A common medical view was that confessed werewolves suffered from melancholy, a kind of depression that included mania and delusions. Some doctors gave the devil his due, however, and opined that Satan could have caused such elements by altering body humors, a line of reasoning that was impossible to disprove and accept by the majority of physicians. Modern medical experts theorized that some accused werewolves could have been suffering from porphyria, which causes sensitivity to light, reddish teeth, and psychosis, or hypertrichosis, a hereditary condition that manifests in excessive hair growth. Lyconthropy believing oneself to be a werewolf might have been brought on by deliberately or unwittingly consuming hallucinogenic herbs, mushrooms, or folk concoctions. Werewolf trials continued sporadically into the 17th century in Germany, the Netherlands, and Eastern Europe, particularly in isolated rural areas, but gradually the educated and elite stopped believing in the devil or animal transformation. In 1692, in Livonia, Sweden, an 80-year-old man named Thies was laughing out of court when he professed to be being a werewolf and entering hell 3 times a year to battle witches and devils and ensure a good harvest. He was later convicted of practicing folk magic, sentenced to a flogging, and banished for life. As the threat posed by real wolves in Europe slowly vanished due to industrialization and population growth, Metzger writes, even the delusion of being a werewolf was gradually replaced by other forms of psychosis. How many people were tried and convicted of being werewolves in all? Several scholarly papers report that 30,000 were executed as werewolves in France alone between 1520 and 1630. But Dutch historian William de Blacourt traced the origin of the figure to a 1611 book by Pierre de Langres, another zealous werewolf prosecutor, noting that it referred to all inhabitants of the Lombard region of France. That's because de Langres believed that every family practiced witchcraft in some form. De Blacourt concludes the total number of prosecuted werewolves in Europe probably did not exceed several hundred. So yeah, there's that. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff like this that happened way back when. I don't know about y'all, I find it kind of interesting. And, you know, just as with the witch trials, there are victims. Victims that accused somebody of something, but the accused are also victims. And that's what this channel is. It's about the victim's voice. And, you know, back from the 1500s and 1600s, they can't really speak anymore, or not everybody can hear when they speak, I should say. So it's important to bring stuff like this back up, because there are still people today that suffer from mental illnesses and stuff that believe they are werewolves. I know one in particular. But let me know what you think about this. The next video that I'm going to be putting out is going to be about how the laws changed for today's world based on what happened with the witch trials. See y'all later.